This morning's Torah reading, it is profound, it is challenging. We are being asked to try to create communities, societies that are just and fair. And any one of us who has been in even a small situation where people come to us and they have a claim, they want us to take a certain action. It can be in our families, it can be in our professional lives, it can be in our volunteer work in the community. We know how hard it is to try to assess the legitimacy of a claim, particularly when two people come to us and they have different versions of the story. And this one says this and that one says that. And is it possible for us to be fair? Is it possible for us not to show partiality? I'm going to come back to that. But first, I want to share with you a song that I downloaded on Spotify. It was the 1963 album that Bob Dylan put out. And there's a particular song that I was listening to while I was driving, and some of you might have heard it. It's called The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. Hattie Carroll was a woman in her 50s, a black woman who served as a maid. And she served as a maid in a home where a man named William Zanzinger lived. He was white, very well off. And at one point at a party, he asked her for a drink and she didn't bring the drink quickly enough. And he actually beat her with his cane to the point ultimately that she died. And there was a court case about it, and it actually happens. This was based on an actual court case. These were real people. And Bob Dylan wrote a song about the whole circumstance, about the trial, but first about these two individuals, one very privileged and one not very privileged at all. And what I want to share with you, and you can listen to the entire song at your leisure if you like, is the verse in which he describes the courtroom and what the judge did. In the courtroom, I won't sing it because I can't do Bob Dylan's voice and presentation justice. In the courtroom of oh goodness, really? In the courtroom of honor, the judge pounded the gavel. All right, you asked for it. To show that all's equal, and that the courts are on the level, and that the strings in the books ain't pulled and persuaded, and that even the nobles get properly handled once that the cops have chased after and caught 'em, and that the ladder of the law has no top and no bottom. Stared at the person who killed for no reason, who just happened to be feeling that way without warning. And he spoke through his cloak most deep and distinguished, and handed out strongly for penalty and repentance William Zanzinger with a 6-month sentence. So that was the sentence, 6 months. And Bob Dylan, in his very powerful, I would say, way, pointing out that here was a judge who was trying to demonstrate that he was going to be fair, that this privileged person wasn't going to get special treatment, but ultimately he very much got special treatment, continued to get special treatment throughout his life. So that's the Bob Dylan portion of this sermon. And now we're going to go back to the Torah itself. And the Torah tells us, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. You should pursue justice. Why the word tirdof, pursue? I'll come back to that. But as I said earlier, there is a recognition in the Torah that human nature is not going to incline us to be fair. We're going to see two people in front of us and we're going to favor one for whatever reasons, how they look or who they are, or maybe they're more similar to us than the other person is, or for some reason we have an affinity and a connection to that person. We are not by nature objective. And so what does the Torah say? Lo tatem mishpat, lo takir panim. You shall not judge unfairly. You shall show no partiality. Now, Rashi says about lo takir panim, You shall not show partiality. He said, even at the beginning, when they're both just sharing their claims, you shouldn't make one stand and one sit. You shouldn't treat them differently because you will affect their confidence. The way that the judge treats the people who come before them will affect whether they can state their claim with confidence and with dignity. Everything has an impact. And the Torah says, you shall not take a bribe, ki hashochad ya'aver pikrim, because the bribe blinds people. And Rashi says, Mishe kibel shochad mimenu efshar shelo yatet libo etzlo lafoch b'zchuto. Very powerful. You take a bribe from somebody, it is impossible that you will be impartial. Now, the judge in Bob Dylan's song may have thought he was trying. He wasn't trying very hard. And he was trying to signal, perhaps, that he was trying. But he wasn't trying very hard. But the Torah tells us even when we're trying, we're not objective. So I want us to just think about all of the moments in our lives when we are looking at people and when we are trying. It could be a dispute between our children. It could be a dispute among siblings when we're part of that conversation. How is it that we can step back and try to see with clear eyes and to hear with ears that are not impacted by all sorts of subjectivity? Many of you know that a few days ago, Rabbi within the community, how you try to listen carefully to people, even people who view the world differently than you do, even people that you might look at and not innately want to open your ears and your heart to, and how you have to truly try the moment that you feel like you're being pulled in one direction and that it's not the fair direction. That's the moment that you have to try harder. There were many other lessons that I learned that I'll perhaps be sharing as they become clearer to me, but I want to raise that up. And I want to invite all of us to be reflective about how we judge each other. When people come to us, are we able to try hard to truly see and to truly hear? So I will conclude with the word tirdof. Tirdof means to pursue. You should pursue justice. And I think it is fascinating that the Torah doesn't say you should do justice. It says you should pursue it, because the understanding is that you might not get there. You might not actually arrive at the truth. But that does not free you from the obligation. I'm trying to lift all of us up to pursue. When people are coming before us, to hear with open ears and with open hearts. Shabbat Shalom.